They called her Olama, but even the wind whispered her name with sorrow. She lived in a clay-painted house that once echoed with children's laughter. Now, it sat quiet, except for the wooden chair that creaked beneath her weight and grief. She had 7 children. Not one of them lived to grow old with her. They died in different ways. But the pain arrived the same, without knocking. Ikenna, her first son, her pride. He wanted to be a doctor. He died during his final year in university. A peaceful protest turned bloody. He wasn't carrying a weapon. Just a placard that read, "Education is not a crime." Amarachi, a golden girl. She loved to dance. They found her body in an uncompleted building after she went for a night rehearsal. No one spoke. No one confessed. The case was closed. 2 died in infancy. 1 in a bus fire. 1 from a snake bite on the way to fetch water. Her last son, Ibuka, the one who used to braid her hair while she told him folk tales, was taken by a sickness the hospital refused to treat until payment came. By the time she borrowed enough money, the boy was gone. Still warm. Still breathing, they said, when they pushed her out to clean the ward. And Kechi, the only one still alive, left for Lagos at 16. She stopped picking her calls at 19. Uchenna, Olama's husband. He left the house one day and never returned. Rumors say he ran off with a younger woman. Some say he died on the road. Others say he joined a cult and vanished. But Olama never looked for him. Because the day he raised his hand against her for the last time was the day she buried the marriage. She never spoke ill of him. She simply removed his clothes from the line, folded them, and packed them away in a box she never reopened. The children she raised never asked about him. Because in every story they told, every lesson she gave, every meal she cooked, she was father. She was mother. She was everything. So Olama stayed in that house, every room an altar of memory. Every window a gate to the past. She didn't go mad. She just became quieter than grief itself. But pain like that doesn't sleep. It speaks in whispers at night. It makes the eyes heavy in the morning. And the womb, though empty, still aches like it knows something's missing. One Harmattan morning, she walked to the village square and sat in the dirt. People watched. Some whispered. One young woman offered her water. She didn't take it. She just said, "I gave the world 7 children. And it gave me 7 funerals." Then, she collapsed. The villagers carried her home. She lay on her mat, chest barely rising. And then something strange happened. That evening, 3 children, orphans, came knocking at her door. They had heard stories. About a mother who used to give roasted yam to the hungry. About a woman who buried her pain but never lost her warmth. They came with nothing but hunger and hope. She didn't ask who sent them. She didn't ask for their names. She opened the door, lit a lantern, boiled water. And for the first time in 14 years, smoke rose from her chimney. By the end of the week, there were 7 of them. 7 children with no mothers. And one mother who had buried 7 children. She didn't try to replace what she lost. She simply gave what was left of her heart. And that was enough. Years after Olama opened her home to the 7 orphan children, her story became legend in the village. People said she had died and resurrected, not in body, but in spirit. The laughter of children returned to her compound. Lanterns stayed until late. Soup pots boiled again. She was no longer just Mama Nechi. They called her Mama to the forgotten. But the world has a strange way of bringing old things back to the surface. One Harmattan evening, just before the cock crowed, a car stopped at her compound. It was sleek, black, dusty from long roads. And from it stepped a woman wearing sunglasses and high heels, out of place on the red earth. She stood at the gate for nearly 10 minutes, hands trembling. She finally knocked. One of the children opened the door. "Mama is resting," he said gently. "Who should I tell her is asking?" The woman pulled off her glasses. And for a moment, the boy froze. He had seen her photo before. In a cracked frame under Mama's bed. The daughter who left. Nkechi. Mama's only surviving child. The one who ran to Lagos at 16. Who stopped calling. Who stopped answering. Who chose silence. She sat on the veranda, alone, head down. When Mama came out and saw her, the entire compound seemed to hold its breath. No anger. No shouting. Just silence. Then Mama walked forward. Her steps were slow. Her breath shallow. But her eyes were still sharp. She stood before her daughter and said one thing. "You buried me in your silence. But I still prayed for your return." Nkechi broke. She knelt, weeping. Not the pretty, movie kind of tears. The deep, heaving sobs of someone who finally looked in the mirror after years of pretending. "I was ashamed," she cried. "I got pregnant. He beat me. Took everything. And I thought if I came back, you would never forgive me." Mama didn't answer. She just opened her arms. And for the first time since she was a child, Nkechi melted into her mother's embrace. A prodigal. A daughter. Found. Olama lived longer than anyone thought she would. And when she finally died, she wasn't buried alone. They carried her body with songs. And 7 grown orphans, now doctors, mothers, farmers, and teachers, carried her casket on their shoulders, like a crown. They didn't cry like strangers. They cried like sons. Like daughters. Nkechi was by her side. At her burial, they didn't wear black. They wore white. Because she didn't just die. She finished her journey. And through every tear, every scar, every silence, and every return, she won.